You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
It's Monday, July 23rd, 2012, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio on the Georgia and Warren Show with tonight's producer, Chris Rosales, and tonight's hoverer, Kristen Custer.
He's not hovering. He said he's not hovering.
I thought that was a deal. Now, before we get into the news, we will have our guest, Chris Stubbs from Can Labs, on later. I'm the lab director from Can Labs.
You know, Chris does a regular spot on American Weed Realm Radio, their Science Corner spot, where he really talks about, guess what? Science. Today he's going to talk to us about testing and why testing and how does testing work and those kinds of things.
Okay, before we get to that, you wanted to talk about, you know, we're here in Denver, Colorado. Many of our listeners aren't. And we're obviously really close to Aurora and certain movie theaters and a tragedy that occurred.
You know, I just think that Colorado has, like a lot of places, has really experienced some pretty significant tragic events lately. We've been talking about the fires and, you know, how many dozens and dozens of people lost their homes and their belongings and were scared to death. And as you all know, most recently we had a pretty tragic event at an Aurora movie theater where an armed gunman came in and shot up a theater of moviegoers attending the opening night of the new Batman movie. 12 people perished that night. More than 50 others have been wounded. There are a little more than half a dozen people who are still in critical condition in the hospital. The youngest victim, the youngest fatality was 6 years old. And our heart goes out to the families, to our community. It's just so challenging to sit helpless once again as our community is suffering yet another amazing loss. And the situation is so different than the fires because we have someone to blame. And I think that's what else makes me very sad is that it brings out the worst in people as we turn our anger to hatred of this man. And I don't like what that does to us. And I think the message that we would like to give is that we want to stand united in supporting people in their grief and becoming stronger, more thoughtful citizens of our community, and not dwell on how much we dislike this human being and awful things that we would like to have happen to him. Instead, I want us to dwell on that tragedy has the potential to make us better people and to care more about each other and to recognize that every moment is important. And when you waste your time saying negative things about anyone, you have just done that. You've wasted your time. And if you can spend time being a caring person and speaking out about what's important and the good and making your community better, I think that we can all grow stronger from this. That's my message.
Yeah, and I don't know how you follow that up, Georgia. So
the one thing that I think that I could say is one of the lessons that you learn through the Batman comics is through tragedy comes greatness. There's a lot of greatness that can come through everybody through this.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, if you want to make this somehow make sense, you can't. What you can do is you can make a concerted effort to make yourself appreciative of what you have in those around you. So having said all that, we have some cannabis news.
On to the news. And not real positive news across the board here, but it's not the tragedy that we just discussed. To begin with, the expansion of the Arizona medical marijuana list, all the requests to expand it were denied, rejected. Will Humble, the Arizona Department of Health and Human Services head, decided not to add any of the requested things. There was a nice article by Yvonne Sanchez in the Arizona Republic that detailed why he didn't do so and went through the hearing back and forth. To begin with, the PTSD was not added to the list of qualifying conditions, and Mr. Humble was reported as saying, well, he doesn't lack sympathy. The science isn't there yet. And
well, that happened in Colorado too. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we get into the catch-22 we get all the time. That was a weird noise.
that was cool. That was a
me.
cool noise, actually.
But we get into just that weird thing where the science isn't there yet directly. But as we keep discussing, that's because the FDA and the DEA block any attempt to research it. You know, lawsuits have been attempted to open that up. I think one's still pending out of Massachusetts. But, you know, how do you prove something that they won't let you study?
Well, and the anecdotal evidence is amazing. I mean, there are especially soldiers who have come back from a variety of especially the Gulf War. I mean, I think that's really where PTSD became this highly diagnosed condition, and people believed that it was more than people being. I mean, it really. Gulf War syndrome and PTSD was initially thought to be something that was all in your head, and there was no way that you could possibly be having flashbacks like that and losing sleep and not being able to eat and those kinds of things. And it was because of that PTSD became a condition that people saw as very, very real and physically, not just emotionally based. And a lot of veterans who suffer from PTSD find great relief in cannabis.
Well, and let me be controversial because I remember that.
Right.
You know, folks came back from Vietnam and were suffering from PTSD, but there wasn't a name for it.
That's right.
But they were coming back into a counterculture that was the hippies, right? And so that gave Nixon and his cohorts another reason to blame the hippies. I mean, it wasn't about them finding relief. It was about them falling in with those, nasty people who were against the war anyway. And so I don't think it was ever taken seriously. Lo and behold, you send people to a friggin' desert that's 120 degrees, and they come back and they don't look like hippies. They haven't been hanging out where there's heroin and other drugs available like there was in Vietnam. And how do you explain away that these folks are going back to, Fort Carson or other bases and finding relief in medical marijuana?
And we're talking about we know personally veterans who are short-haired
from Desert Storm.
Yes.
I mean, but anyway.
But who exactly don't what you're saying, that don't fit that profile, and they're younger.
That far back, yeah.
Right. They're younger. They never used marijuana recreationally, and again, I mean, it's just such a shame. And it feels yet again like it's this discrimination that somehow not only are they discriminating against people who suffer from PTSD, but they're discriminating against this harmless herb.
Yeah. So, head of Arizona's Department of Health and Human Services, Will Humble, also said no on depression. The reason given was that there were other meds available.
Yeah, you just gave a look that I wish that I had.
It doesn't matter whether there's research or not. It doesn't matter whether there's evidence, but there are other meds available. And even though when you hear the ad on TV and the list goes on and on and on about how this and that's going to fall off, and if you have high blood pressure or keel over dead or things are hard for 4 hours or more, on and on and on, run to your doctor. And none of that seems to occur with folks who use medical marijuana or need to be necessary.
What's really sad about that?
Because those other things are available, that works.
There was a period of time when teenagers were being given a variety of drugs for depression and bipolar, and they were committing suicide. They got so
and
depressed.
Let's not walk down that lane, because that touches back on what we started with. I mean, I don't want to get all Columbine on people and start talking that way, because, clearly those folks were on some serious
Well, I'm just talking about.
Prescribed
I'm
narcotics,
talking
but-
about the side
Yeah.
effects, the
Well,
horrible
and-
side effects of,
yeah.
of medications. I mean, that was
But-
proven to be a side effect of a pharmaceutical medication.
Well, and in a similar vein, he said no to anxiety. Now, granted, anxiety is a little more California-esque in it being looser and harder to play to the general public in terms of they're more skeptical about, oh, his anxiety, who doesn't, But I'm talking about clinical anxiety. And,
Oh, yeah, the DSM has a
again,
pretty
this
good
came up
definition.
as it's the least amount of research of any of the asked about things. And so that's why he knocked that down. The final one surprised me because he said no on migraines. And it wasn't enough studies. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't have time to get through the list, but my understanding was there was at least 4, if not more, decent studies on migraines that showed the positive effects of medical marijuana.
Well, and what's interesting about that is there's lots of pharmaceutical medications that are for migraines, but there is not a medication that currently cures migraines.
Huh.
There are medications that allow you to sleep through your migraine. There are medications that mitigate a little bit of the pain of a migraine, but there is not a real, true migraine relief.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, there is. It's called cannabis.
but there's no studies on it, almost. So, again, if you live in the state of Arizona, please, Google him. Go to the state website. He's the head of the Department of Health Services, Will Humble, and send him a polite email, but letting him know that you disagree with his decision to not approve any of those conditions. Or you could pick and choose. I mean, that's up to everybody. Maybe they like some, maybe they don't. But it's, at least when you look at that PTSD and the migraines, that's pretty tough.
Hey, Warren, why'd you look at me when you said send a polite email?
No comment. We'll get to the discussion of the office move later. But the next thing I'd like to talk about here, which is kind of news but not really news, because this is more bringing our listeners' attention to a great article that was posted on the Huffington Post today called Wake Up Obama, Medical Marijuana Patients Are Voters. And it was written by Steph Scherer, who's the executive director of ASA, and Americans for Safe Access. And I won't get into the back and forth about ASA and whatever the hell's going on with Don Duncan and Steph in California. I've had my back and forth, through the years, yada, yada, yada. I'm just pointing out the listeners need to read this article, go to the Huffington Post, because she does a wonderful job of backtracking through her coming to the 2008 Democratic National Convention, being pretty excited by, Obama and his, the nomination, and then following through to his actual election, and expecting some relief for those in the cannabis industry, particularly based on some of the stuff that was kind of sort of immediately said from the Ogden memo. But then she tracks through, the letters from the U.S. attorneys, specifically in California, the follow-up Cole memo, the continued raids, kind of on and on and on. But it is definitely worth checking out. She does a great job what's the word?
Chronologically.
No, Ising. What's the chronological? Whatever.
Doing chronology of.
Yeah, I guess that was what I was after. But, in just because this has, well, not because of this, but because it was actual news today, there were protests in Oakland, California. Obviously, for our listeners who are listening to this later, it's July 23rd, and there was a rally today in downtown Oakland at a fundraiser for President Obama's re-election campaign. It was estimated there was 800 to 1,000 people there.
Great.
Again, this is all of a sudden becoming Cannabis News sponsored by Steph Scherer. But the best quotes that actually I was pulling out immediately. I didn't get, typically I'm quoting D'Angelo, this and that, but Steph was on par today with, quote, the Obama administration's attacks on the medical marijuana community are unprecedented and out of control, said Steph Scherer, executive director of Americans for Safe Access, the country's leading medical marijuana advocacy organization and one of the groups organizing today's rally. Quote, we are here to let the president know that there's a political and not just a financial cost to shutting down law-abiding dispensaries. Patients are demanding that the president take account for his administration's harmful actions and address medical marijuana like the public health issue it is. These attacks represent an about-face to Obama's stated policy that he was not going to be using the Justice Department's resources to try to circumvent state laws on the issue.
Good girl stuff.
Very good. But as, again, estimated between 800 and 1,000 there today. So very interesting. Very interesting. We've been lucky. Knock on fake wood.
This isn't wood. Knock on
I don't know what the
laminate.
hell that stuff is.
I think it's plywood. Pressed wood.
Right.
So that's wood. Knock away, baby. Yeah, Chris knows.
At what time? Quarter past? Is that when we're supposed to pay the bills?
Yeah.
So we have like 1 minute.
No, we're paying
Okay.
the bills now. We're being
okay.
produced right now.
Okay.
We're being produced. So we'll come back to finish up the rest of the news.
I got a little bit of news, and we want to talk about our new studio, and then we'll be talking with guys from CanLab.
So we'd like to thank our friends from Medical Marijuana of the Rockies.
Ooh, Jerry.
Jerry and the beautiful, wonderful Aaron. MMRockies.com is their website, and they are your mountain source for meds. Check out MMRockies.com for their ever-changing strain selection, and you can find out what baby plants they have available for sale, because their clones are baby plants are fantastic. They are located off of exit 203 in Frisco, Colorado. That's mmrockies.com. Heading up to the mountains is a great thing to do. Being able to head up to the mountains and visit Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is fantastic. That's mmrockies.com, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
Well, and if you stop in, ask for Jerry, because if he's there, go shake his hand, because that's probably one of the only transplant Olympians you will ever meet.
Yeah, and he's a double transplant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Downhill.
He's fantastic.
Yep.
mmrockies.com. You're listening to iCannabis Radio with the handsome Warren Edson and the brilliant Georgia Edson. We'll be back after this message.
The Clinic is proud to announce the third annual Clinic Charity Classic Golf Tournament benefiting the Colorado MS Society. The tournament will be held at City Park Golf Course this coming August 11th. There will be some incredible prizes, including an opportunity to win a trip for two to Hawaii. The trip includes airfare, 8 days, 7 nights at the Ritz-Carlton Kapalua, including 4 rounds of golf and $1,500 spending cash. Thanks to the incredible support of Weed Maps, Hetty Glass, Rocky Mountain Hydro, T. Meyer & Stitch, Dixie Elixir, and MMJprinting.com, we're able to provide awareness to this incredibly difficult condition that so many Coloradans are suffering from. The event will be covered extensively by our favorite industry media outlets, Culture Magazine, The Hemp Connoisseur, Kush Magazine, and of course the amazing people at iCannabis Radio. Please register at thecliniccolorado.com or at any of our 6 convenient locations throughout the Denver metro area.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley Brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com. Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Hi, I'm Rick Cusick from High Times Magazine, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
And we're back. Yeah, the final news item we'd like to discuss before we talk about our big studio move is that last week the Montana Supreme Court held that hash is not medical marijuana. Now, to backtrack a little, Montana has medical marijuana. Montana does allow reciprocity, meaning patients from other states can use their medical marijuana in Montana. But possession of hash is a felony in marijuana. And the argument was that the medical marijuana law defines marijuana as, quote, any mixture or preparation of marijuana, end quote. The legislature had previously created a criminal code, however, defining hash as a felony and defining it as, quote, the mechanically processed or extracted plant material that contains THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, and is composed of resin from the cannabis plant, end quote. So the legislature had created a separate definition for hash and made it a felony, which is worse than just simple old possession of marijuana in Montana. And so that the court, looked at that key fact, and that was the main focus of their holding. And that is pretty harsh on the patients in Montana, because that means that they can't have hash, they can't have BHO. And it'll be interesting how that affects edibles, because, technically butter, oil, alcohol, a lot of what's used to make edibles is a processed or extracted plant material that contains THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, and is composed of resin from the cannabis plant. All that stuff is probably going to fall in the realm of hash and be illegal in Montana. There's some kind of grumblings across Facebook this morning talking about that, and what's that going to do to the Colorado industry? And we talk about things you can't write and how weird this state goes back and forth. So, arguably, right, if the Supreme Court in Montana is saying that the legislature made a special definition for hash, well, our legislature did that, and it was a while ago, okay? But just a couple years ago, they made a different special definition, and that definition was for MIPS products, infused products, and that's through infamous HB 1284. And I think it's an incredibly great argument to say, if that is brought up here, hey, unlike Montana, where they defined it as hash and ended there, here in Colorado, we first defined it as hash, but then 15, 20 years later, created a special business designation for these new products, and these products are made under this designation. And so clearly the legislature, both the Senate and the House, agreed in creating this. And, so could we really have a situation where, 1284 comes back and saves the industry? But, I guess we'll see.
So So 1284, because of the MIPS definition, could save hash or could save infused edible products.
Well, down the line, because clearly Med has been in all these businesses. Med is recognizing these
The Medical
businesses.
Marijuana Enforcement Division.
Sorry for those folks that don't know. I mean, they inspect all these manufacturing facilities, whether they're making baked goods, whether they're making CO2 hash, whether they're making butane hash, whether they're making alcohol-based, whatever new wacky thing they're creating, where in the end product there's some potential residual other than just THC. Because for those folks that don't know, technically in Colorado, bubble hash or hash made from, ice and water and pot, kind of strained out through, bubble bags or whatever you want to call them, and dried out is not technically hash. That's marijuana because there's no byproduct in the end. It's just THC marijuana.
Well, it's just kind of a shame. I mean, yet again, we have people who aren't knowledgeable making decisions for people who are knowledgeable, and I know that there's a debate over, and you can listen to more on IDAB radio, where I'm sure that they will continue to talk about the debate over concentrates and the benefits and risks of concentrates, but the fact of the matter is, again, we know a lot of patients who suffer severe pain, and the idea of having a concentrated medication is so important to them. In the same way that you choose between a 200 milligram ibuprofen or a 600 milligram ibuprofen.
Well, and because apparently I'm going to be extra controversial tonight, I'd throw it out to the industry, particularly those involved in BHO, CO2, and some of the other forms of extract, that the common public would not understand to self-regulate, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But before somebody does it to you, you should get together. And it surprises me, some of the leaders of the industry groups are worried about guys twirling signs when we have cases that could come crashing down on big chunks of the whole industry. But that's a debate that gets me in trouble, and we'll talk about that a different week. Because
I could talk about it right now,
no,
really happily.
He says he's going to come on. I want to bring him on. No, Mike wants to come on. Let's invite him in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, I think that's a great idea. And we're talking about Mike Elliott from the Medical Marijuana Interest Group, and they are proposing and have proposed on behalf of whom I'm not exactly sure, but their members.
Chris Herndon, councilperson.
That in Denver, all outdoor advertising of medical marijuana businesses be banned. Meaning
citywide,
no billboards, no bus signs, no outdoor advertising of any kind, no sandwich boards. So any and all outdoor advertising would be completely.
No sandwich boards, Chris said.
Yes, I repeated it. Would be completely banned. And not only do I have a huge problem with that, because I don't know, it has something to do with the First Amendment, but why is our industry a second-class citizen? Why is it that we can't, that someone needs to ban our advertising? The argument that Mike Elliott gave, and we'll allow him to speak about it on our show.
Just like alcohol and cigarettes.
Right, bastard. The argument that Mike gave was that there's such a small percentage of people who are actual medical marijuana patients that this advertising is targeted to. Therefore, we should just keep our advertising to print ads, internet ads, those kinds of things.
Well, and it's a slippery slope because, as I've talked about with certain reporters around town, particularly the hidden ones behind bandanas, it's a slippery slope until they're coming after print ads.
Right.
And I mean, because they did it with alcohol and they did it with tobacco, which is these things that we keep hearing popped up compared to medical marijuana. And I'm sorry for our listeners out there who can't hear the sarcasm in my voice. Those things shouldn't
really
be compared.
Really, because it's dripping.
Okay, so let's stop talking about crappy stuff and talk about fun stuff, but, after the move fun stuff. Because next week, Monday, we will be appearing in a brand new studio, 2130 South Bel Air Street in Denver, 80222. And we will be in a stand-alone building with a it's a pretty tricky green room.
We're down with the 0222.
We have a green room that will hold also our pinball machines and our 60-in-1 machine.
What's a 60-in-1 machine?
There's like 60 games on there. Oh, I'm telling your son you didn't know what the 60-in-1 machine was.
That's the
You will
Frogger
get the
game.
eye roll.
That's where Frogger is.
Donkey Kong.
No, Frogger.
Mom. I can hear it now. Mom.
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
I don't know. I haven't gotten
Donkey Kong
gotten
Jr.
past Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong 2.
Oh,
Donkey Kong
all
Jr.
the Pac-Mans
2.
are on
Pac-Man.
there.
Oh yeah,
Ms. Pac-Man.
Ms.
Okay, she
Pac-Man
pretends she
Jr.
had. Okay, come on. She's pretending like she hasn't played it. But
Actually, but just so you know, it's a 64-in-1, not a 60-in-1. Just to put that out
no, it
there.
isn't. This is not a Commodore 64. But anyway, it's next week we'll be opening the studio to the public during our show in the hour before, which would be 6 o'clock. So come on down. We'll have some snacks, some food. We might even have a quarter barrel. We'll see.
I'm hoping that my friend Annie from Lollapalooza will have her food cart there. Lollapalooza.
Whatever.
Guys-
They're great though, and so we'll let our listeners know during the week whenever she agrees to be silly enough to do this for us.
Annie's
But
great.
we'll have all sorts of fun stuff going on, and one of the things we want to talk to our listeners about is if you visit our show off hours, meaning when there's not a show, the pinball machines are free. But starting on Monday, when there is a show, they are going to cost a quarter during the show. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my
But we will
goodness.
be picking a charity each month, and all the proceeds during those hours of the show will go to the charity. So they'll get like 75 cents, $1.25 each month, But
Just
unless
for
we got to convince Chris Matz to come down, and even though he'd be so grumpy because he gets to play free all the time, once he plays one game, he'd have to play like 9 to 13 games, and then we.
9 to 13.
Yeah. It is.
Is that how long it takes? How many games he can play in an hour? Is
Yes.
9 to 13
And we
games?
almost must be hitting our time here, but we'll have more information with each oncoming show, and we want to invite our listeners as well. The whole cast will be at the Rapids game this weekend. We have 3 tables that we are handing out to our worker bees here at the studio who actually show up and work. So the first 8 get to go to the game, and we'll be tailgating ahead of time. So starting about 5:30 Saturday, we will be in the VIP lot, which is right in front of the cantina.
At Dick's Sporting Goods
At Dick's
Stadium.
Sporting Goods Park to see the Rapids. Anyway, let's pay bills, but not as many as last time because that was too long.
There's a lot of bills.
Yep.
You
And
know
then
what?
we'll be back with Chris Stubbs from Can Labs, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk to Chris. Before that, though, I want to talk a little bit about my favorite garden supply store, Noda Urban Garden Supply, located at. I just had a total brain fart.
Okay.
1227.
That's not my favorite store.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Not right now. Rob Hunt.
On 27th Street.
He has a boxcar.
The corner of 27th and Walnut Street, in between Walnut and Larimer Street in Denver. Noda Urban Garden Supply has all of your garden supply needs, whether you are a hobby cultivationist or you are a commercial grower with a big, fat, freaking warehouse. The guys at Noda Urban Garden Supply can meet all of your needs. The other thing that's really cool that they do is they brew their own compost tea. So if you don't know what compost tea is, it's got all these minerals and vitamins and things in it for your plants, and you can water them directly with the compost tea, or you can cut it down depending on the needs of your plants. For example, I have some pretty root-bound stuff and have been using the compost tea, and it has really broken down a lot of the salts and what have you from having old yucky dirt and old yucky roots, and it's really helped my plants tremendously. But go visit our friend Levi, and please tell him that you heard about Noda Urban Garden Supply on iCannabis Radio. He's a wonderful guy, and he can answer all of your gardening questions. That's Noda Urban Garden Supply. You're listening to iCannabis Radio. We'll be right back.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
The Clinic is proud to announce the 3rd annual Clinic Charity Classic Golf Tournament benefiting the Colorado MS Society. The tournament will be held at City Park Golf Course this coming August 11th. There will be some incredible prizes, including an opportunity to win a trip for 2 to Hawaii. The trip includes airfare, 8 days, 7 nights at the Ritz-Carlton Kapalua, including 4 rounds of golf and $1,500 spending cash. Thanks to the incredible support of Weed Maps, Hetty Glass, Rocky Mountain Hydro, T. Meyer and Stitch, Dixie Elixir, and MMJprinting.com, we're able to provide awareness to this incredibly difficult condition that so many Coloradans are suffering from. The event will be covered extensively by our favorite industry media outlets, Culture Magazine, The Hemp Connoisseur, Kush Magazine, and of course the amazing people at iCannabis Radio. Please register at thecliniccolorado.com or at any of our 6 convenient locations throughout the Denver metro area.
This is Adam Kokesh, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
Nice job, Adam. That's awesome. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are going to go ahead and call our friend Chris Stubbs from Can Labs. Chris is the lab director at Can Labs, which is a full-service testing lab. And they test
388 East Mexico.
That's right, and Suite 238. That's the ringy-dingy, in case you didn't know that whole phone thing. That's what it sounds like when you're calling somebody on Skype or on a regular telephone or on a cell phone or any of those kinds of things. Hello, hello.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. This is always kind of the weird part about live radio.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
We'll have to call
30.
Chris again, that's loud. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and call Chris again. But Can Labs, like you said, is located at 3888 East Mexico, Suite 238 in Denver. It's actually right upstairs from our current studio location. They're a full-service testing lab. They test flours and butter and creamery butter and cooking oils and hash oils and waxes and all edibles. And Chris is going to tell us a little bit about how that works and why they test and the importance of testing and those kinds of things if we can actually get him on the phone.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic...
Well, as we said, Can Labs, Chris has a spot on Realm Radio, and tomorrow night is actually his night for that as well.
And what's that spot called?
It's their Science Corner. And Chris walks through the science of specific tests and those kinds of things, and it's really interesting. One of the things that is helpful for people who are just kind of recognizing that you can actually test the THC and CBD and cannabinoids in the products. Their website, canlabs.com. It's CANN, 2 N's, LABS, canlabs.com. They really go through
your call
all of the. Oh, well, looks like we're probably not going to be able to talk to Chris tonight. I'm disappointed in that, but They go through all of the different reasons why you test and what the tests look like and how they test, and it's based on agricultural testing. So there is kind of a pre-science before it was used to test the THC in medical marijuana. I think one of the things that is helpful for patients. People want to know what they're going to get out of their medicine. The THCs or the CBDs and how that affects them and how that helps with their pain relief or whatever other medical condition they are treating.
Well, and I hate to ask you this because you obviously aren't the expert, but agricultural tests. What do you know what you mean by that?
Yeah, I can do a little bit about on the fly explanation of the services and how that works, but they have here's the science part. They have very specific standards in how they test and that allow people to learn about how they can dose. The method that they use is called high performance liquid chromatography. Thank you, or HPLC. And it consists of using all medical plants, including that of cannabis. The American Herbal Products Association, which regulates dietary supplements and those kinds of things, is kind of the expert in testing of this nature.
Well, and so I'm assuming though, let's get back to too often we spend time in the cannabis community, whether it's just the cannabis community or the medical cannabis community, debating back and forth, which is fun and great and brings us, better knowledge and all. But then we have to pitch it to the rest of the world, which is,
That's right.
average Joe and Jane soccer mom. So, what you appear to be describing is a system that's the same as what we do on other agricultural products. And I guess, and so then, that should make more sense to those folks outside of the cannabis community.
That's right.
Okay, hey, well, that's what we do for tea, or that's what we do for echinacea, or I'm trying to think,
But that's exactly right.
I'm assuming even pesticides and things on fruits and vegetables and stuff that you eat.
Yeah, and all those things are parts of the ultimate report that they get. Lots of medical marijuana centers have their products tested and show that information to their patients, so their patients know exactly what's gone into their products and the different cannabinoid levels. Again, there are different properties, healing properties, based on different cannabinoids, and people experience. Lots of people know about THC. THC is the cannabinoid that is most known for the euphoric high effects. But there are lots of strains that have a much lower THC level that don't produce that kind of effect, but have other cannabinoids that are much, much higher. And those cannabinoids are often, the cancer-curing cannabinoids that we're hearing most about recently, the CBNs and the CBDs. And right now there isn't a really good a method to know what strains have really high CBNs, because for so long people were trying to get as much THC as possible. So as the genetics is changing, the testing is really helping to be able to propagate those strains that are high in other cannabinoids other than just THC. So this is all the stuff that Chris is going to talk about for us tonight.
Technology. We've seen that in, what is it, Steep Hill Labs in California. Schlepped their stuff even out to Amsterdam and did testing at last year's Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam. So it's fascinating stuff.
Well, and one of the things that's really cool is, we are in an office building, and I kind of think about agricultural testing and plant testing needing to be in some kind of huge warehouse with, I don't know why, but with enormous calibrated equipment run by super geniuses, which, it's one super genius, Chris Stubbs, and he is, he works with a small, very, very, very technical piece of equipment But it's pretty spectacular, and it doesn't take much product to be able to test all of the items that they need to test. One of the things that edible manufacturers do is, every time they make an oil or a butter that's the base for their edible product, they have a small amount tested so that they can be certain that their dosing is the same. So that when you eat a brownie from one specific company, they want you to know that every brownie that says it has 100 milligrams has 100 milligrams in it. And so that's how important testing is.
Yeah, and great information from you, Georgia. And so our listeners know, because we just kind of slashed into the Warren and Georgia show, and and Chris hovering Chris, are here. But, what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, for a living.
I am the marketing director and run a medical marijuana business called MMD of Colorado.
Okay, so that's what I mean. You're not just like walking in and pulling this out of.
Right. Yeah. I didn't make this up. I do run a business.
Okay.
What do you do?
I don't know. I move stuff. So how about hitting us up with a few ads? We promise it won't be many. And then we're going to come back and quickly run through the rest of the shows this week. And I mean quickly, because then we're going to talk about what our show is about next week and pimp our party some more.
Yeah, we'll be right back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio with Warren and Georgia.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. runongrass.com.
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Talk it up, Colorado. Gary Johnson is referring to the tagline for Amendment 64, which is Colorado's ballot amendment that is on the November ballot, which would essentially do the closest thing to legalizing marijuana, which would be to regulate marijuana like alcohol, and allow recreational users to purchase marijuana.
Are you trying to get us to go for like another hour? We should not get into a 64 discussion at, minute 48.
It goes right into what we're going to talk about next week.
No, but we're not talking about that yet. We're talking about Tuesday, tomorrow, an American Weed, from 6 to 8, as we said, Science Corner. From 7 to 7:25, Ask Dr. Scheck in an interview with a local epileptic boy, Spitzer Nottingham. And from 7:25 to 8, Rants and Raves with Bob Compton. Bob is a famous rock and roll photographer.
That's going to be very
totally different, too. Because my guess is that last half hour will have little to do with weed and a lot to do with the Grateful Dead.
Which actually has a lot to do with weed.
Acid. So on
That too.
from
Mushrooms.
8 to 10, which means somebody's going to have to shut the Stanley Brothers off. But from 8 to 10 is
That's
Sex
me.
Pot Radio. And then on Wednesday, we have iDab Radio from 6 to 8. Don't miss it. You know, the boys talking dabs.
And you know what they do at 7:10?
What?
Yabba dabba doo.
Thank God we aren't governed by the FCC. But considering we used to get in trouble for shows like Get Hammered with Hendrix, you know, anyway. And on Thursday we have Overgrow the Radio with Ed Rosenthal, Adam Dunn, and George from VetsCan. I guess that's a 2-hour show, right? So that he'll be able to survive that. I always get his time wrong. What is his time?
7 to 10.
Okay. 7 to 10?
7 to 9.
So we always get it wrong, all of us.
Yeah.
So
you got iDabs wrong, too.
Yeah.
iDabs is the same time.
You know what? 7 to 9.
7
to
You know what?
9.
If you just listen to iCannabis Radio Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Somebody's got to study these topicals.
Shut up. Shut up.
Somebody's got to study
Shush.
topicals because I had no idea they could confuse people quite so
Shush
much as they
your mouth.
apparently maybe do.
Shush.
But just go to our freaking website, www.icannabisradio.com, and provided we haven't screwed up the times on that as well,
I could look real quick.
you could get some details. But then, okay, blah, 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 next Monday, July 30th. Not only will
yeah,
we
it's totally
have
screwed up on our
some-
website.
Oh, of course. Not only do we have food and beverages and things like that, and we'll have the new and improved green room complete with videos and pinball machines, and you will be able to peek in and see the iCannabis radio shows live and in action. Next week, yeah, you'll be able to see it, and it is amazing because whatever creepy place used to be there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is so crazy. Tell them about how crazy it is.
Okay, basically, once you get into the building, a lot of the rooms look into the other rooms, but that's great if you want a studio and a green room that looks into it, because basically we have a studio that's about twice as big as we have now, and most of the wall is soundproof glass into the green room, and it is soundproof glass because we
tested it.
closed the door to the point of maybe breaking the door.
What?
But we'll get the
You
handle
broke the
fell
door.
off. Thank God these guys were there because I would have been locked in like you would have been looking for me as of now.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, okay, whatever. You would have been partying.
Where's Warren? I don't know. All right.
Well, she has that app on her phone where she'd be like, oh, I know where he is. I'm gone. But anyway.
There's the other creepy little window.
Yeah, and then there's a creepy little window into the jail cell, which we decided today is going to be the copier room.
Oh, nice.
But it is fully soundproofed, and the walls you can hammer on, and they are thick. So come join us because next week will be Mom and Dad's for Marijuana show as well. So that should be fun. Who are some of the guests that will kind of sort of be there if they answer the phone?
You know what? My friend Diane Fornbacher out of New Jersey, who has been a huge advocate. She has a pretty terrible story. She was arrested for marijuana possession when she was a college student and lost her financial aid, and that really changed her life in so many ways and caused her to become a pretty big legalization activist and advocate. She is a mom. And she is one of the founders of the Normal Women's Alliance. She really believes in the importance of moms and women being outspoken in this industry. And we are inviting all of you, please, if you are listening to us and you are a parent, we want you to be in the studio. We want you to be at the show. We want you to be in the chat room. We really want to show that moms and dads believe in legalization, and we're not afraid to talk about it. And we think that there is strength in numbers, and we want our politicians to see that whatever stereotype they believe in a marijuana advocate, an activist, that we can break down those walls and really show that we can be strong, excellent parents and also believe in marijuana legalization.
Should be fun, and again, in the future, please feel free to come join us in the green room for any of our live shows. That should be a thing we do more and more frequently. And on top of that, it allowed the law firm and the studios to return to the good old days of 6 months ago before AT&T took over our building. And we had
A clean bathroom?
That's Jenny Cush.
Thanks,
That's
Jenny.
a whole other story, because Jenny does 420 friendly cleaning for those in the need. But anyway, a whole different story, and she didn't pay for that ad. So
She doesn't have to pay for the ad.
main point of me saying that is that we have a rather large, about 1,200 square foot entertainment meeting space. We will, by Saturday, have approximately 30 chairs that they generally match. As well as the projector and the screen and other things. So if you need use of that space for a get-together, please get in touch with the staff here at iCannabis Radio, and we can put it through the proper channels.
Yeah, and also if you're interested in advertising with iCannabis Radio on one or any of our shows, you can also contact us. The best way to do that is to email Georgia at medicalmarijuana101.com. Georgia at medicalmarijuana101.com.
Great.
You can also call us at 303-831-8188, and we can talk about your advertising your business with us. So we have a full week, and then as we move into August, you know what happens the first Monday of August? What happens the first Monday of August?
Rents due?
Oh, I have to pay you rents. I do have to do that. It's Glass Monday with our friends from Mad Hatters, and we are going to do an oil segment. So all of the glass on that show is going to be specifically designed for concentrates. Cool, huh?
Yeah, that will be cool.
They call them oil rigs.
Yeah.
Get it? Do you get it?
Yeah.
It took me a while.
Not in Montana anymore. They call them a felony.
Right? That's not funny.
Ouch.
Well, seriously, it's scary shit.
It is scary.
You know, I mean, I don't think people realize the impact of that, because again, like we saw in the Mensch case out of California,
It's a felony to have a rig, or the hash.
Well, if it's dirty, because
Okay,
what
well,
is
yeah.
it? It's a delivery device for you know,
Okay.
A felonious product.
I mean, and any residue in it would be possession in most states. So it's scary stuff. So yeah,
Imagine going to prison for reclaim.
Well, and as a patient, you know, be careful about. I mean, obviously you shouldn't travel with marijuana anyway, but if you're a patient, your card does work in Montana, but don't think it works for hash, because nothing works for hash.
Well, and it's just one of those things that if people don't pay attention, I mean, they kind of it's kind of like when we get people from California who walk into stores here. First of all, for some reason they think they can purchase here, and second of all, they don't realize that the hoops you have to jump through as a citizen who has the ability to get a recommendation, how difficult it is.
Well, and great. So I get confused when it's only you three in here, and we're going to have a big glass window with potential people staring at me, because I totally lost my train of thought and the fact that. You know
topicals? You're using topicals?
Well, what happens though? No, we're complaining about a Supreme Court case in Montana, right? And the problem is what happens. The same thing we saw happen with Mensch and with Clendenin here in Colorado. Mensch is a California case. It becomes a case of first impression in a state, meaning judges have never really dealt with the issue, okay? Granted, they're going to do a little bit of thinking on their own. The first thing they do is turn to their clerk and say, you know, Google and LexisNexis this topic, you know, put in butane hash oil and court cases, and you know, hash, and the only big case that's going to come up that relates with medical marijuana is this new one in Montana, and then they so often adopt the language of that case and the theories of that case into their own opinion. We saw, mention California, and the court there decided that wellness services were necessary, and a large number of them, because in that case, he even drove his patients to the doctor a few times a year. But they decided you needed those things to qualify for a caregiver defense. We have the Clendenin appeal here in Colorado. The judge types in, gets his clerk to do work, and lo and behold, we get an appellate decision that reads a heck of a lot like Mensch, and frankly cites Mensch, saying, in California, because I couldn't find anything else, the Mensch court held blah, blah, blah. A caregiver needs to do more than provide wellness services. A caregiver needs to know their patients. And so that's the concern here. Hopefully the difference we talked about, that being a MIPS license, and the distinction that our legislature made for this industry after making the HAS designation, will save this industry. And someday it'll make a real funny movie and book as, we see this all come to fruition. Because it's not funny now.
I was going to say, it's really not funny now. I mean, we keep waiting for it to be fun and funny, and it's stressful and scary.
Yep. And everybody involved is violating federal law.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So.
And fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And infighting and all those kinds of things.
That's cool.
You know what? I think we should end on a happier note. We were really excited to move to our new studio. We're really excited to have people back.
We're
in the
excited
studio.
to be there.
Right. But good distinction. Sorry, moving in and of itself is not fun, but we're excited to be there next Monday night. It is going to be a new environment.
Pray to the Comcast internet gods that they actually show up on Friday and actually hook it up and actually know how to hook it up. But that's a whole nother episode for next week when we have like lo-fi broadcast. So we'll see.
Lo-fi is better than no-fi.
Actually, I noticed that there's a lot of Wi-Fi signals around there, so we'll just take somebody's Wi-Fi and broadcast.
Well, there's clearly they already verified through their system that the cable internet comes into the building and they could actually speed it up. The problem is getting that cable internet into the landline because those are in the offices. We confirmed it. We just don't know where it all hooks up, and whether or not the Comcast guy's going to be like, "Screw you! You go me, a 12-pack and $100 after work, and I'll come back." We're going to see.
Well,
I got a 12-pack if you got $100.
Well, I mean, we're going to have
Where's Foster?
half a barrel that night, so
Quarter barrel?
No, Saturday. Oh, Saturday. He's there Friday. I'm not wrecking my beer on Comcast guy. Anyway, that's the end of our episode, and see you all next week.
Thank you. See ya.